The Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra is supposed to have this new shiny Samsung 200 megapixel camera with sensor in it. That's supposed to be its secret weapon, as some articles I've read would lead us to believe. However, I think that's kind of a rudimentary way of thinking about things because here, I talked about this previously. When it comes to Samsung, they always go for the bigger megapixels. Whenever somebody else is using 12, they're using 50. When somebody else starts using 50, they're using 108, now they're using 200 megapixels. We've looked at this before. Have any of the Samsung phones in the last couple of years actually been the number one or even the top 5 smartphone cameras in the world? No, they're not. But they do take reliably good photos. They do pretty good in the video department, and their selfies, especially in the Ultra, are usually top notch. So call me skeptical. And I mean, I'm very skeptical about this, but here's the thing. Whether it's a secret weapon or not, and we're going to talk about this sensor because they're calling it, I think it's the HP2 sensor. On paper, it looks really good. And whenever you talk about the mathematics and the dynamics and all the things that it does, really the big thing we're looking at here is an ability to do high-scale pixel binning. Now, what's pixel binning? Basically, for lack of better terminology, is putting more pixels in the same amount of space. So if you've got a 50 megapixel camera like you have with the existing Samsung, like the Z Fold 4, or if you have like with the Pixel 7 Pro, you take a 50 megapixel camera and you bend that down 4 times and it turns it into basically a 12 megapixel image, 12, 13 megapixel image that has more data in it because they shove more pixels in the same amount of space. So what we're looking at with a 200 megapixel camera, Samsung has had 3x3 pixel binning for a while now. 3x3, so it's like, what, 1 to 9 or something like that? I can't even remember. I'm not good at this math stuff. But with the 4x4 pixel binning, which is what we're supposed to get with the 200 megapixel camera, effectively, it can shoot a 200 megapixel image or it can bend that down to 12 megapixels, which is the effective operating megapixels of most cameras. So even if you look at the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max, they have this new 48 megapixel camera. You're still shooting 12 megapixel photos because it's doing a 2x2, a quad bin, so to speak, down to the 12 megapixel image. So what you're supposed to get with this camera is scalability, and for lower light settings, instead of using a 3x3 pixel bin, it'll do a 2x2 or even a 1-to-1 or something like that. I was doing some reading about it, but effectively what it means is it can shoot pixel formats in the megapixel range of 200. For less than ideal lighting, it can shoot it at 50, and then for like super low lighting, you're going to get 12 megapixels. So I don't know how they're going to use this in conjunction with everything else, but here's the real raw deal. I want to show you something because this has been my biggest headache with Samsung for a very, very, very long time when it comes to their cameras. It doesn't matter if it's 108 megapixels, if it's 13 or 12 or whatever. They have horrible shutter lag. Now, shutter lag, I've talked about this in previous videos. Here's what it is. When you keep pressing the shutter button, you see how it's not exactly instantaneous and it lags behind when you press the actual shutter button? Contrast that with another phone like a Pixel where it's instantaneous, or you contrast that with like the iPhone and it's instantaneous. So what happens when you have this shutter lag, you'll get a delay in the photo taking capability. It's especially bad for moving objects. If you've got pets, if you've got small children, you can relate and you'll get this image. You think it's supposed to be a good photo and then you get the facial blur. That's something that you get with this shutter lag with the Samsung phone. So my hope, and more so than this 200 megapixel camera, I sincerely hope that they actually fix that. Will it happen? I mean, if I didn't get somebody that would take me literally, I would bet money that they don't fix it. And some people say, oh, it's not that big of a deal, or it's just the way that they choose to do their camera app. Look, when it comes to shutter speeds, faster is better. You don't want that lag because in the opportune moment, you need to be able to take the photo you need to take. And you want it to come out the way you want it to. That's why people like the Pixels, and that's why a lot of people like the iPhone so much. What you want is the most realistic image possible in a natural way that you've taken it. So you want to have it where it looks good, the colors are naturally represented, it's vibrant, it looks lifelike, and you got it as quick as possible because timing is everything, especially when it comes to shooting live photography, especially when it comes to kids, when it comes to pets, when it comes to animals, when it comes to trying to take a picture of an airplane flying by at an air show. You need speed. You need a fast shutter speed. You don't want the shutter lag. So, yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited we're supposed to get this cool new 200 megapixel camera. is probably going to be revolutionary. And I can only imagine if they give us some astrophotography stuff like we're hearing the rumors. Think of that spatial landscape, but having that massive 200 megapixel pixel density to where you can actually zoom in. That's one thing you get with the pixel binning and the cropping of the images or shooting 8K video. That stuff gets bent and squished down, so you have all these different pixels inside of there. So it's something they used to call super zoom or super high res zoom on some of the Android phones years ago. They've been doing this a long time. And then they shove more pixels in there because what used to happen is you would take a photo and then you would try and zoom in, and the closer you get to the object, the more blurry it gets. But when you have this higher pixel density, you can zoom in further on it and you get a higher resolution image. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, we're just going to have to see how it is when the rubber meets the road. I'm excited, really excited about the phone. It's going to be here on February the 1st, and we'll get to see and hear and all this cool stuff. And also, if you're interested in getting one, make sure you do the reservation for your pre-order. I've got a link in the description. You can do that. If you do that, all you have to do is go to that little link, put in your name, your email address. You don't even have to put in your phone number. They're not going to blow up your phone, send you a bunch of messages. But to reserve it, which is no obligation, they'll guarantee you an extra $50 of Samsung credit when you pre-order from Samsung. And if you opt that you're going to reserve multiple devices, 2 or more, then they'll give you $100 of Samsung credit whenever you purchase those through Samsung. So it's basically them handing out free money for nothing. We all like free money for nothing. So yeah, the link's in the description. You can use that. But also, going back to the object of the phone, I'm excited about it. I'm excited to get it here. The big reason for me is that Snapdragon 8 Generation 2. Normally, I don't get too wrapped around the axles about the processors. A lot of it's the same old, same old. I've been talking about this for years. Where's the tangibility? Can you feel the extra power and the speed you're getting? Well, maybe not necessarily because everything runs so zippy now. But the thing is with everything running so zippy is a lot of that underlying stuff really burns up more battery. Especially when you're shooting 8K video, you're shooting 4K video. All this super pixel binning, it uses a lot of battery. It uses a lot of battery, it uses a lot of memory. So that's why whenever you're shooting a lot of these videos and shooting a lot of pictures, it eats up the battery really fast. And this is something that's true across all phones. With the Z Fold 4, with the S22 Ultra, the iPhone 14 Pro Max, the Pixel 7 Pro. If you go out and shoot a whole bunch of pictures and video, it absolutely kills your battery. So to have a more power efficient processor that can handle this stuff more ably, then that's where the savings comes into it. When you're using a Quad HD Plus resolution, 120 Hz refresh rate, that burns up more battery. But when you can throttle the screen down, go down to 1 Hz if you're looking at still images and just a home screen and things like that, there are ways you can kind of manipulate that so it ramps up when you need it. And when you won't notice the difference, it turns it off so you can save battery. So the Snapdragon 8 Generation 2 on paper looks fantastic in this department. The 8 Generation 1 had a lot of power, a lot of enhancements, but it wasn't good at battery efficiency. It didn't have good thermals, and it would overheat, or it would just burn up the battery a lot faster than you would expect it to. So the Snapdragon 8 Plus Generation 1 we got in the Z Flip 4 and also in the Z Fold 4. I'm also using it in the Huawei Mate 50 Pro that I've got right now. Very good chipset. They balanced it out. They kind of made it a little more even keeled, preserving that power, but also giving you the battery savings that goes along with it. Also the addition of light mode. So I think with the Snapdragon 8 Generation 2, even with this new camera, even with all the things that are in there, we're finally catching up to where we're getting some of that battery savings back. We've had 5,000 milliamp batteries for a long time, but have you noticed over the last few years how we don't really get any extra battery? In a lot of cases, we get worse battery. It's because they're doing so many high-powered things that it drains the battery faster even though you have the same amount. So as we can get these more customized processors that know when to throttle things down, know when to ramp things up, when to run at 100%, and can really shoulder the load of a lot of things like these high refresh rate screens and the cameras and the image signal processors, that's where you get the battery savings. That's what I'm looking to happen with this new Snapdragon 8 Generation 2 when it comes to the S23 series, particularly S23 Ultra. So lots of cool things. We'll see what happens with the camera. I'm really keeping my eye out. I know I've talked about this a few times, but that shutter lag absolutely drives me insane when I'm trying to take photos. So I really, really hope that they dial it in and get that fixed. But again, I don't think they will. So that's all I've got in this video. What do you think? Are you excited about the 200 megapixel camera? Do you think it makes a difference? Do you think that it's really going to be able to take that much better photos than the 108 or the 50s or the 12s or the 13s that we're using already? Sound off in the comment section. I want to talk about it. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys next time.